On a 2008 Acura TL, this should be similar to like all the J series. This is the Type S. So again, any other models with the J series is very similar. The RL, the Honda Accord, the Odyssey, and the Honda Passport too as well. Very simple setup, nothing too crazy. Probably maybe the most stressful thing about this will probably be taking off the whole intake, and then the rest is all cakewalk. Now I want you to know this, that these guys crack. Like if they're hard, which you see how like I can't squeeze this, it's very hard. So they're known for getting hard, and then usually when you start pulling right up, they'll crack. I'm gonna replace this guy. Now it's not the same, but it is similar. I believe the what was it? The RL. I believe it's the intake hose is the same as the RL, but it's gonna work out the same because same setup. But I have the part number. The part number for that one is 696001 by Dorman. You can get that at your auto parts store. And I'm gonna see if it works. It should work. So everything else looks the same. That's pretty much it. Nothing too crazy, but if you haven't already, give it a thumbs up, comment down below if you have any questions, and hit that subscribe button for more upcoming videos. And we're going to go ahead and start this video after the intro. Normally we would have like a little plastic cover right here, and usually there would be like there would be like one plastic piece right up here. We would pop off those little tabs, and then this front piece right here. So right here you would have a little plastic cover. That's missing. That's how the car came. So I really can't show that. Then right over here, how you can see the plastic on that side, you would have it over there over the battery that would be covered. So if you see that, don't be discouraged. So just kind of pop off those clips with a flathead screwdriver or a pick, and then we'll go ahead and take that off. All right, so next we have this guy right here. This was already loose prior to getting to this. This is why I'm replacing this too as well. So you're gonna have one 10 millimeter right here. I don't think that's original. Usually it should be like you could have a flat head, or they're usually 8 millimeters, but this one's actually a 10. Then you would have so this little guy right here, you're gonna squeeze it, this PCV hose. So you're gonna squeeze it, but you can see how right there it's cracked. So this is gonna break. So as soon as I try to pull on it, whatever, there's no way of saving it. So what I recommend to do is try to spray some WD-40 in here if you're gonna reuse this hose, so you can at least get this lubricated, and then at the same time try to like wiggle this back and forth so you can grab this bottom hose right here where my thumb is, and just see if you can, you know, go back up and forth and get that lubricated. Then we're gonna have 4 8 millimeters. So we're gonna have one right here, there's the second one, there's the third one right there, and then there's the fourth one right there. Then once we loosen this, and then we're gonna hold this down with some pliers. We're gonna lift this up at the same time and then pull it back. So we're gonna pull. So say we're standing right here, right? So we're gonna go right over here, pull in this sense. Don't try to pull it over here, because I think you're gonna probably hit this. If you can't pull it that way, then perfect. But we want to get that out at the same time. But you might have to separate this from that. So yeah. All right, let's take those off. One thing I forgot to mention, I totally forgot about this power wire right here. So usually these guys are clipped in right there. Someone broke this one. This is what I like using the pick for. So the pick on this side, you can actually go right there. Get this out the way. And then we can pick it out right there from the bottom. It's a little bit hard to show, but you're gonna push on the ends. So on this one, I can show you right there. If I can get it to focus. All right, so it's not gonna focus. Once I pull it out, then I'll go ahead and show it. All right, I thought I was recording this part right here. So basically, what I did was I pushed in and lift it up so I can get the intake housing up a little bit. and push it aside right here. Obviously this guy broke, so there's really nothing I can do about it, so it snapped off. Normally you would just grab this little piece right here, squeeze the clamp, and then wiggle it right out, and then you're good to go from there. So this is that little tab I was telling you about right there. So you would just squeeze those. So push on one end and then push on the other while lifting up with one hand so you can get that snuck out. All right, again, I thought I was recording. Basically you would have this guy right here. So this would be on the engine, and you basically your tabs would be like that. So from the west to the south, you would be having your tabs, and then that means it's in the lock position. So you're gonna get a flathead screwdriver, put it in there, and spin it to the left, and it needs to be north and south, just like how this one is. So right there. So once that one is just like that, then on both sides you can, the bottom piece will be free, and then you'll have two rubber clips, so one right here and then one right there, and then you would just put your hand, one hand right here and then one hand right there, and lift up both at the same time, because if you lift up at one at a time, then you could probably have a possible chance of breaking this. Now next thing, so we know this motor runs very hot. It's the Type S obviously, so all the little J series are known for that. So while taking off your connector clips, these guys can break. So this is for the map sensor, so this one broke. Really nothing I can do about it. Air temperature sensor right there. We're gonna disconnect that. We're gonna take off this hose right here, unplug that. Then we're gonna take off these two 10 millimeters right here, so one, and then there's one more right there, so you can see it. So right there, so that one right there. All right, so once we take off those two, then this little solenoid will be away from the intake. The reason why I like to unbolt it like that, one time the thing broke on me, so I didn't feel like dealing with that ever again. So that'll be the most efficient way. So as soon as we take off the throttle body, then that will be more easier to get to. Then we're gonna go ahead and take off this connector too as well. Then we're gonna take off the brake booster hose, and then this little vacuum hose right here. Then we're gonna take off this PCV hose. You can either take it from here or there, however you want. We're gonna disconnect this connector, and then we're gonna take off these 12 millimeter, or these 10 millimeter bolts. There's 12 in total, so there's gonna be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So we're gonna go ahead and take those all off. And then I'm just gonna fast forward it for most of the part, because it's pretty thorough on explaining this. And then for the throttle body, if you want to take those off, you're gonna have two nuts up on top and then two bolts up on bottom of it. Those are gonna be 12 millimeters. Then we'll get a flathead too, and then you just pry right here, and then so on. Then the rest will come off. Yeah. So we're gonna go ahead and take off. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 12 millimeter bolts. So we're gonna take off those 12 millimeter bolts, and then the intake plenum should come right up. All right, so we're just gonna go ahead and grab right up, and it should come right out. Oh, this. So right here, make sure you see this with me. So right here, this little nipple will hit right here. So we're gonna go ahead and tilt it up first so we can escape it, and then so forth. Next thing, we're gonna go ahead and take off this coolant reservoir because this guy's gonna be in the way when we're trying to take off this ignition coil. So the ignition coils, on some of them, you're gonna need an Allen 4 or 6, one of those two, I can't remember. But these ones are 10mm bolts. So we got 1, 2, 3 for the ignition coil. Then we have, you can take off this bracket, yeah. So then we're gonna go have these little tabs. You just lift these right up like that, so you'll pull back. And then there's this one, so you just need to pull away, open them up, and then so forth. So once we get these released right here, just like that, we're gonna go ahead and take off, same thing how we did for this little wire right here. We're gonna go ahead and do that for this little wire right back here. And then I think we're gonna slide down the O2 sensor or unplug it. If not, no, we'll just leave that alone. Don't worry about unplugging that. What we're gonna go ahead and do, we're gonna unbolt this bracket so we can leave that alone. And then that basically, we'll unbolt this 10mm, so it'll make it easier so we can move the harness forward. Disconnect these guys. These guys might break. Oh, this one didn't break. So you just squeeze these tabs right here. So you squeeze those and then pull right back. And then there's a 10mm bolt right here to take off this coolant reservoir. And then we're gonna have a few 10mm on the valve cover. So we're gonna have 1, 2, 3, 4, and then there's a 5th one right there. So this guy right here. I believe there's 2 long ones and then there's 3 short ones. And then when you pull up this reservoir, pull it up, and then it should slide right out. And then for this little hose, you'll just spin it off from the little radiator cap, and we'll set that aside. One thing I forgot to mention, just for you guys, I would recommend, depending on where you're at, I would recommend putting a rag or something to cover your intake ports. I do see a lot of people, they'll do the whole newspaper trick. You just stick newspaper inside there, or you can just do the whole rag scenario, fold this right up, and then make sure you have your holes covered. Just to protect anything from going in the intake so you don't damage it. So now we need to go ahead and pry up the valve cover. Right here, there's a little bracket, and then the hood, or the so we'll just do that. We'll break it away. And we're gonna go right here too. So we already kind of started that little process. This is like one of the most trickiest parts. Oh yeah, don't forget to take off your oil or your dipstick tube. So we'll get right here. Just like that. And now we're all said and done. Now you can use a pry bar or a flathead screwdriver. I'd recommend getting those little plastic clips, or the little pry bar. You don't have to get one necessarily like this. I have this one. This one is adjustable, so I can adjust it how I want. Harbor Freight does have a little set that you can get them at. They'll be all black and they will not be adjustable. Then we have our valve cover right here. Now the sucker's on there pretty hard. Gotta pull these right off. So you can see how they're starting to break right here. And then we'll just clean up the rest of the blade. At this point,
if you wanted to learn how to do the valve adjustment, I do have a video on how to do a valve adjustment. I did it on a video on an Acura RL. So again, if you wanted to do the valve adjustment, I will show you in that video on how to do the valve adjustment. So for the time being, go ahead and cover your whole valve cover. Alright, so now that we have this covered, perfect. We can do whatever we want around it. Alright, so now we're going to go ahead and take off these plastic clips. This one you just pull right up and then kind of slide right out. So you'll lift up right here and then, well, God, this one's broken too, so really can't do too much. So you would lift up right here and then lift up right here at the same time. Pull that back. Then we'll have this little area. So there'll be like little tabs right here. So you will push towards you while lifting up at the same time. And so there's one right here. There's another one right here. And then we're going to go ahead and do that for the other side. So we have one tab right here too. We're going to push that one up. And the same thing for right here. We'll go ahead and push that one up too as well. So there's going to be 4 tabs of these guys right here. Usually these guys are broken, but surprised this one's not. So yeah, you would just push this one guy right in. So yeah, we're all good on that. Alright, so the other valve cover right here in the rear is going to be a little bit similar, but this one's actually going to be more of a pain in the butt. Just because we got to lift up this wire right here. So I would recommend getting a zip tie. We're going to zip tie this guy right here to this. So once we slide out the cover, it'll be easier. I think we might need to put silicone on one of the sides. I don't remember. Maybe this one might not have it. We might not need to put silicone. I remember one of the J series you do, if I remember correctly. It might be for the the Odysseys and stuff. All right. So, anyways, getting back to the video. So we're gonna take off the power steering line right here. So these guys tend to leak right here. So be careful. These guys crack a lot right there, and I mean, just from touching it, you could probably make it start leaking and stuff. So we're gonna go ahead and just push this out the way. Lift. Once we get this out the way, we can take off. There's a 10mm right there that holds that bracket. Then, coming from right there, let's see. You see right under that hose, there's going to be another 10mm. Now that holds in this plastic, so we need to take that off. I believe. Yeah. So I believe there's 3 in total. So there's one right there. There's the second one right there. And then, where's the third one? Okay, so there's only going to be 2. So yeah, there's 2 in total. So one right there and then one right under that power steering hose. So we're going to go ahead and take those off. We'll probably unbolt it. We're going to need to unplug this connector too, just so we can get a little extra leverage on that hose. And then we'll move this little vacuum hose right here in the back, the one that we took off from the intake plenum. So we'll just move that right back here, spin that around that hose. So we're gonna go ahead and disconnect the ignition coils. Again, it's the same like the front. I'm not gonna show that part, but it's not rocket science or anything. So just gonna go ahead and disconnect those. And then for this connector right here, the one I was telling you that we're gonna go ahead and disconnect. It's just like that. I don't know if you can see it. So you're just gonna press on this and then pull away. All right, cool. And right here, this hose or this cable sits on the valve cover or on the timing cover. So we're just gonna pull that right back for the most part. And then once you get it all the way off from the timing cover, we should have some more like leverage to pull that out. So you'll go ahead and just kind of stretch it out as much as you can, and then we're gonna zip tie this right now. All right, so before we zip tie it, we're gonna go ahead and take off those ignition coils. So there's gonna be 3 10mm bolts. So there's one right there, 2, and then the third one is right there too. So now we're gonna go ahead and pull off the ignition coils. So we're gonna go ahead and take off this little clamp right here. Then for the same side of the valve cover, you're gonna have the same five bolts on the same side, just on the opposite side. So at this point, we're ready to pop off that valve cover. So I'm just gonna try to go here on this side, see if I can get any catch. So what I did was I kind of used the rail right here. Now, if you got a really pry, I wouldn't recommend prying right here, but I gave it a little light pry and it came right out. So it wasn't that much, probably maybe about like 5 to 10 foot-pounds of kind of pressure and stuff. So again, I wouldn't recommend right there, but again, do what you got to do. So we're gonna go ahead and pull this guy right up, just wiggle it right out, and then kind of spin it sideways like this, and then pull right out. And then we're gonna go ahead and pull off the valve cover gasket. As you can see, this sucker's on there pretty tight. Usually the one right near the exhaust is the one that breaks. So the rest is all nice and soft. So you see how that's all worked, like nice. And then right here, this little spot right here, you can hear it crack. So shouldn't crack. But all right, cool. So we're gonna go ahead and clean up our area. I'm gonna spray brake cleaner on a rag, wipe down this little surface right here. So I'm gonna wipe that all down, clean that up nice and clean, and then I'm gonna clean up the valve covers with some engine degreaser and stuff, and then we'll get those all nice and shiny and clean, and then I'll get right back to the video. Alright, so now I'm going to show you how to take these guys off. Normally for the J series, these guys are stuck on there really tight. Sometimes they'll be pretty easy to take off. So I already took out the first one, so you could kind of see like how this straw, if you have a flathead screwdriver, you're going to need to clean these guys right up. So I'm going to do that with the flathead, take off with other little remaining. Some people might be worse and some people might be easy. So anyways, you can use a pry bar or something. I have this I'm still using, but the pry bar, you would just kind of go like this. What you want to do is you kind of want to get it up on the, not this lip right here, you want to get it on the outer edge right here. So you want to dig it up in and put your hand on one side and then pry right back. And just like that, it should pop right out. And then you would repeat the same thing for the other one. Make sure you take off your oil cap because you don't want to break that. And then once you get to like the opposite side, you want to make sure you're going in on this. And just like that. So I'm going to go ahead and clean these up. You're going to repeat the process. If the valve cover, if the gasket was still on here, you would just pull it right off with a pick. We're going to go ahead and clean this up and then get back to the installation. All right, so next thing, we're going to have to take off these guys. These are going to be the grommets for the valve cover itself. So I got some pliers, and basically we need to separate the metal part from the rubber piece. So again, you can use a blade, but just be careful when you use the blade so you don't cut yourself. But again, I got some cutters. We'll cut that right out and do that. There's that. And so again, you know, we'll just kind of put in our fingernail right there and just pull that right out. Now usually sometimes they're a little pain in the butt, so you might need to twist them in and out. You can grab your pliers with and do that. Alright, so forth. Alright, so now for the new one, right here, we'll get these, and then basically you don't want to put these in dry, so you can either dab these up in oil or put a little dielectric grease, any kind of like lubrication, KYB, Astroglide, you know, a little gel goes a long way. So usually we put along a little bit right here, and then I still have a whole bunch right here, so we're trying to get the most out of this. So we'll just pour in it right here, and then all you do is you push down with the bottom of your palm, and then you just kind of wiggle it right down just like that. Make sure that this guy does not crack, and then that's pretty much it. So we're gonna repeat that for the rest of that. Then for this, we're gonna basically, we gotta hammer these guys down. You can actually push these in, I believe. If you wanted to make it a little bit easier, you can put a little grease right there and then go all the way around, and then this will be helpful for installation. So you see how easy that was? I was able to do with my fingers. So we'll go ahead and repeat that process for these guys too as well. And then for the valve cover, basically there's going to be a certain notches right here. So we'll have a little one notch right there and then another notch right there. So 2 notches in total. So our valve cover can pretty much only go one way. So we don't want to mess that up. So we'll put that right there and then that one right there. So we'll just do that. And then you would press it right in after you're done installing the little grommets. I'm going to go ahead and install this later after I'm installing the tube seals. Now for the tube seals too, for the little grease, you want to put a little grease and then lubricate the inside right here, and then this will help ease installation during that process. So right there, just like that. And then again, make sure you clean this piece right here, the surface, with some brake cleaner. Not that it matters, but for some of you, there's going to be some mating surfaces when the cylinder head makes, when the cam cap makes contact with the cylinder head, and that you need to put silicone in those 2 areas. I already cleaned up my area. This one I'm not going to really worry about. I think I have another video showing where to apply the silicone for an Acura RL or something, or maybe an older gen TL. So I'm just doing one on the Type S as a little refreshment and so on. So after I'm done doing all this, we're going to get back to the installation. One thing I forgot to mention too during this installation, these tube seals, this is the correct way, improper way. Make sure that the tube seals don't look like that. Make sure that they look like that. So bad, good, bad, good. So we make sure. So you want those 2 to look like that. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and put back on our valve cover. I'm going to do the front one first just because I just want to knock this one out the way. Okay, again, we have everything all installed. We have this lubricated. the inside, so that will make it more easier to go over the tube seals or the spark plug tubes. So obviously there's two valve covers. You got to make sure you get the one with the dipstick. Make sure it's over here on this side and not in the back. Okay, so right here you can see the tube seal hasn't fully seated in. See how like on the top it went in, but on the bottom it didn't. If I can get that to focus. So right there on the top it's fully seated and on the bottom it's not. So you're gonna get a flathead screwdriver and then we're just gonna kinda, you're not gonna force it in there, so we're just gonna kinda just start the momentum just like that, and then we're gonna do that for the same thing. Literally that shouldn't go in there. You shouldn't be forcing in anything. That's how it should look like, fully seated in, and then that's how it should not. So you should see that metal all the way around. So as long as you see that metal all the way around, see how you don't see the metal on the bottom? That's how you know it's fully seated in. So when installing this guy, we're gonna put it in at an angle, just like this, and then spin it while it's inside there. And we'll just drop it right down. And then we're gonna do the same thing too for the little tube seals. Now we're gonna go ahead and cut our zip tie. Pull these guys right out. Then we're gonna bring this down. We're gonna connect this connector right here in the back to that little vacuum solenoid. Make sure you have this hose connected in. And then we're gonna connect all our ignition coils. Then we're gonna go ahead and bolt down our little cable bracket. Then you're gonna grab your little vacuum hose that was right here that we had tucked around the hose. And then we'll just have it crimped back in. So we'll have this plugged right back in here with this little bracket right there. And then we're gonna go ahead and push back in our wire loom that's right there. So you just literally push it in by hand. So we'll just push that sucker right there. And then there's that. So now at this point we're ready to install the intake manifold or the plenum. Oh yeah, before we do anything else, I forgot to put this guy right here. So make sure we put this bracket back. One thing in the video I did forget to mention, I actually never mentioned this, but might as well tell you right now. So for this power steering hose, I had this guy tucked up under the cruise control unit. So I had it hanging right here. So that's what made it easier for us to take out the valve cover too as well. All right, so now we're gonna go ahead and take off our old gasket. Make sure you kind of pull this off all together as leveled as one. So the one with the little indentation, the top hat, see how right there, and then it's indented. It's indentated. This part right here is going to go on the bottom. So we're going to go ahead and press this right in. All right, so we're going to go ahead and install this guy. And just like that, we'll connect make sure nothing is in the way. All right, so perfect. So nothing is in the way, we are good to go, and then we're ready to bolt this sucker down. So when tightening these bolts, you want to work your way out. So we'll start off right here, and then right here, and then we'll go right here on the outer edge. Now we're going to be connecting our hoses, so we'll connect this guy right back here, and then we'll bring that right there. Then we'll connect this hose, and then the brake booster hose too as well. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and replace the gasket that's in here. This came with our gasket manifold set. So we'll just lift this guy right up. So make sure your gasket's fully seated in, so just kind of walk your hand over and just make sure it's all pressed in, because we don't want nothing pinching. So try not to slide your hand, just kind of just press it down stuff, and then whatever stuff that's whatever gasket that's not fully seated in, it'll seat up. Alright, so now we're going to go ahead and install this guy. And at the same time, we're going to go ahead and connect this. Alright, so now we're going to go ahead and connect our air temperature sensor. And then right here, we're going to go ahead and connect our little vacuum switching valve. right there. So we'll make sure that's all inserted. And put that right in its hose. And then at the same time, make sure you put on your connector. And then we're going to go ahead and bolt that down. So now we're going to go ahead and put in our gasket. The one with the indentation, for this one's going to be like this gasket. Make sure you go buy your own gasket. We're going to have the indentation right here, this top piece, right there on the top. Then we're gonna put some grease. We're just gonna do this on the outer shell of the intake or the throttle body. This will keep your intake tube inlet from not sticking. And then we're gonna do this for this. So ever in the future, if we ever need to take this off, change out the air filter, you want to lube up these two so it's easier to slide off and so you're not struggling. And then we'll go ahead and connect our map sensor too while we're at it. So I just finished up the job. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and show you what I did right here. So basically this is how this would look like right here. You would put this bracket over the reservoir, put down the reservoir, make sure you connect that guy in. Now the little intake, I think they call it their fresh air intake hose. So this guy was kind of sticking up like right up here, so I couldn't get this piece over there. So what I did, I had to just spin it just a tad bit more so you can see that little notch right there. And then I'm going to make a small little incision right here, so I'm going to cut this with a blade so we could use that. Unless you guys know the part number, go ahead and list it down below in the comments. But we're going to go ahead and put back on all this plastic cover. I'm not going to show that. It's like a little puzzle, common sense type of thing. But if this video helped you out, give it a thumbs up. Comment down below if you have any questions. And hit that subscribe button for more upcoming videos in the future. And thanks for watching.